Wait, before I begin this story, I want to tell you something very important. Hmm, you see this life. Trust no one. We live in a very wicked world. Even small things, like how you as a woman, how you discard your used sanitary pads matter. We ought to be very careful. Like very, very, very careful. Now sit back and relax. Let me gist you this interesting story. Many years ago in Lagos State of Nigeria, Mrs. Adetola Folarin, or Mama Clean, as everyone fondly called her, was a woman in her late 60s. Her face, lined with wrinkles, carried a perpetual smile that radiated warmth and stories of endurance. Her eyes, small and bright, twinkled with a kindness that disarmed even the most rebellious students. Her uniform and a headscarf tied loosely around her graying hair was her badge of humility. Mama Clean was the epitome of a good, God-fearing woman, a mother figure, a janitor who swept the corridors of St. Peter Secondary School, an all-girls public school in Ikeja, Lagos State, known for its vibrant student life. Mama Clean was the kind of woman who seemed to carry the weight of the world in her gentle smile. She shuffled slowly through the corridors with her broom, her back slightly hunched, her steps slow but deliberate, as if each one was a prayer for the ground she trod. The students adored her. To them, Mama Clean was a grandmotherly figure, always ready with a piece of advice. During break time, she would regale them with tales of her imaginary grandchildren, her eyes crinkling with mirth as she described her misfortune. You girls are also my own. You all are my children, and I want the very best for all of you, she would say, patting their heads. Teachers too found comfort in her presence. She would listen patiently as they vented about unpaid salaries or unruly students, nodding sagely as if she held the wisdom of ages. To the hostel matrons, Mama Clean was a godsend. She would stay late, scrubbing the girls' dormitories until the tiles gleamed, never complaining about the extra hours. The matrons saw her as a surrogate mother, a woman who filled the gaps their exhaustion left behind. No one questioned her late-night rounds, her insistence on cleaning the bathrooms herself, or the heavy black nylon bags she carried out at odd hours. After all, who would suspect Mama Clean, the embodiment of kindness, too good to a fault? Her life, as she told it, was a tapestry of quiet tragedy and resilience. She was a widow, she said. Her husband lost to an ailment years ago. She claimed to live in a single room in Aguda, scraping by on her meager janitor's salary to support her grandchildren. Her stories were peppered with just enough details to make them believable. She would sigh dramatically, clutching her chest. God will surely provide. No matter what you are going through, He will never disappoint you. Just trust in Him, she would say. Everyone would nod, moved by her faith. Students would slip her 50 naira notes, teachers would share their lunch, and the principal, Mr. Okonkwo, once organized a small collection to help her fix her leaking roof. Mama Clean accepted it all with gratitude, tears on her face, her hands clasped as if in prayer. But beneath the surface of this saint, beneath the drama of innocence displayed by this so-called angel of light, there were cracks no one saw. Mama Clean was a master of disguise, her innocence a carefully woven tapestry. Her smile, though warm, lingered a fraction too long. Her eyes, though kind, darted too quickly to the corners of rooms. When she lingered in the hostels after the girls had gone to class, her eyes were not just scanning for dirt. When she chatted with the matrons about their families, her questions were not just polite small talk. And when she slipped into the bathrooms to clean, her hands were not always reaching for the mop. She preyed on the naiveness of some students for information. Occasionally, she would call a young random student to a quiet corner and ask odd questions like, do you know which of the girls are boarders in this school? Do you know which of them is having their monthly visitor at the moment? What about where the girls discard their waste? Do you know? Well, all these were dismissed as the quirks of an old woman. Her curiosity was chalked up to be just a grandmotherly interest. After all, Mama Clean was harmless, or so they thought. But Mama Clean was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Her kindness a mask for a sinister purpose nobody could have imagined. For years, she had played her role to perfection, and St. Peter's Secondary School was just a pawn in a game. St. Peter's Secondary School Girls' Hostel was a world of its own, a web of bunk beds, shared secrets, and the scent of body sprays mixed with the faint smell of Dettol. By evening, when the day's classes were done, the girls would gather in clusters, their voices rising and falling like waves. They would talk about everything: boys from the neighboring school, the latest Nollywood films, and the mathematics teacher who always smelled of onions. The boarders, mostly teenagers from across Lagos and beyond, navigated the delicate balance of adolescence under the watchful eyes of Matron Grace, a no-nonsense woman with a voice that could silence a riot. Lately, though, strange whispers had begun to circulate among the girls. It started with small things: a missing hairbrush, a towel misplaced, a sanitary pad wrapper found torn open in the bathroom bin. The girls blamed each other, accusing roommates of borrowing without asking. But for real, who could really be so jobless, going around stealing used pads? Scoffed Evelyn, a SS2 student with a liking for conspiracy theories. Or could it be rats? She asked sarcastically. What if it's a ghost? Just what if? One of Evelyn's bunkmates whispered, her eyes wide with mock terror. Ghost? No way, it must be your village people, another student teased. Well, the girls laughed it off, although they couldn't really shake the unanswered questions off from their young, curious minds. Meanwhile, the bathrooms, always clean, thanks to Mama Clean, now felt oddly violated as of late. Some girls swore they had seen shadows moving late at night, but when they checked, it was only Mama Clean, her brush scraping softly against the tiles. One evening, during a power outage that plunged the hostel into darkness, Adezua, a quiet SS3 girl, noticed something odd. She had gone to the bathroom to dispose of her used sanitary pad, carefully wrapping it in newspaper as her mother had taught her. As she dropped it into the bin, she heard a rustle. Turning, she caught a glimpse of Mama Clean in the dim glow of a rechargeable lamp, her hands rummaging through the bin. Mama Clean, what are you doing? Adiswa asked, her voice trembling. Mama Clean straightened, her smile quick and disarming. Oh, my dear, I was only just checking for blockages. The bins get full too fast. Adiswa nodded, unsure, and returned to her bunk. But the image stayed with her, Mama Clean's hands, gloved, moving with purpose. The incident might have faded into the usual haze of hostel gossip if not for Blessing, a bold SS2 girl with a reputation for fearlessness. Blessing had always been suspicious of Mama Clean's overly sweet demeanor. Nobody is just that nice for free, she would say, rolling her eyes. And besides, I don't even know why my spirit just doesn't connect with hers. So, she began watching Mama Clean, noting how she lingered near the bathrooms. She noticed, too, the black nylon bags Mama Clean carried, always tied tightly, always taken out late at night. What is she always throwing away at midnight? Blessing whispered to Adeswa one night. Come to even think of it, why does she always have to wait until midnight before she throws whatsoever only God knows? Why? What could this old woman really be up to? Now, unknown to the girls, Mama Clean's late-night trips extended beyond the school gates. In the underbelly of Lagos, where Oshodi Market thrived even after dark, a shadowy trade flourished. Amid stalls selling everything from second-hand shoes to juju charms, a select few vendors dealt in items far more sinister. Used sanitary pads, believed by some to carry potent spiritual power, were a rare commodity in certain halls. Ritualists, desperate for materials to fuel their dark practices, paid handsomely for such items, no questions asked. Mama Clean had stumbled into this world years ago, introduced by a distant cousin who dabbled in spiritual solutions. At first, she had been horrified, but the promise of quick money, enough to buy a plot of land and build a house, maybe even start a big business, changed her mind. She justified it to herself. The pads were waste, discarded, no harm done. Her role was simple: collect, deliver, collect payment. She had perfected her system, using her janitorial duties as cover, her innocent persona shielding her from suspicion. For her, the school, with its hundreds of female boarders, was a gold mine, a farm full of ripe corn heads. Her contact, a wiry man known only as Baba T, operated from a cramped store in Oshodi. His face, pockmarked and perpetually sweaty, betrayed nothing, as he handed her 10,000 naira for each delivery. Clean work, Adetula. Clean work, he would say, his voice low. She would nod, pocketing the money, her heart racing with a mix of guilt and thrill. She told herself she was not hurting anyone. The girls would never know. But deep down, she knew the truth. In a city where desperation bred monsters, she had become one. Blessing was not the type to let things slide. Her suspicion of Mama Clean grew into an obsession, fueled by late-night discussions with Adesua and Evelyn. Together, they vowed to get to the bottom of whatever it was. Their mission was straight to the point: uncover what Mama Clean was hiding. They started small, taking turns to monitor her movements. Evelyn, with her knack for blending into the background, followed Mama Clean to the school gate one night, watching as she handed a black bag to a man on a motorcycle. The motorcycle man looked dodgy, Evelyn reported, her voice hushed. You needed to see his face, like someone who sells fake phone chargers. God, please, cover us! Like, what is really going on here in this school? Adesua, the most cautious of the trio, suggested they check the bins. Late one night, armed with a flashlight and a pair of rubber gloves stolen from the science lab, they crept into the bathroom. The bin was nearly empty, but at the bottom, they found a torn sanitary pad wrapper with traces of blood. Oh my goodness! She's really taking them, Blessing whispered, her voice trembling with anger. But why? Why? The girls debated about telling Matron Grace, but then they hesitated. What if they were wrong? What if Mama Clean had a harmless explanation? What if they were all in over their heads? They needed proof. Right then, Blessing proposed a trap. They would mark a sanitary pad with a tiny ink dot, add some red stains to make it look like blood, dispose of it, and see if it disappeared. Adesua, ever practical, wrapped a marked pad in newspaper, ensuring it looked ordinary and real. They placed it in the bin and waited. The next morning, the pad was gone. Mama Clean, as usual, acted like normal while she shuffled through her rounds, her smile unchanged. But Blessing noticed something new: a bulge in Mama Clean's apron pocket, the faint outline of a small plastic bag. The girls exchanged glances, their hearts pounding. They were onto something, but the truth was darker than they could imagine. They decided to confront Mama Clean, but they needed a plan. Blessing, with her flair for drama, suggested luring her into a trap. They would pretend to catch her in the act, hoping to scare her into confessing. Adesua, nervous but determined, agreed, while Evelyn insisted on recording the encounter on her Nokia Android phone. One evening, as the hostel settled into its nightly rhythm, the girls staged their plan. Blessing accidentally dropped a wrapped sanitary pad near the bathroom bin, making sure Mama Clean saw it. As expected, Mama Clean lingered, her eyes darting to the pad. When she thought no one was watching, she bent to pick it up, her gloved hands swift. Stop right there, Blessing shouted, bursting from behind the door, Adesua and Evelyn at her heels. Really? You? All this while? She shouted angrily. Mama Clean froze, her face a mask of shock. For a moment, the girls thought she would cry, but then her expression hardened. What is this nonsense? She snapped. her voice losing its usual warmth. You children are too nosy. She tried to push past them, but Blessing blocked her path. We know you have been taking pads, Mama Clean. What are you doing with them? The confrontation spiraled. Mama Clean's denials grew frantic, her eyes wild. Matron Grace, alerted by the commotion, stormed in. Faced with the girl's accusations and the marked pad in her hand, Mama Clean crumpled. Tears streamed down her face as she muttered apologies, claiming she needed the money for her grandchildren. But the girls weren't convinced. Who are you selling them to? Blessing demanded. But Mama Clean's silence was answer enough. Matron Grace, horrified, reported the incident to the principal. The school was thrown into chaos. Parents were called, meetings held, and Mama Clean was suspended pending an investigation. The girls, now heroes among their peers, faced a mix of awe and fear. Rumors spread like wildfire. Mama Clean was a witch, a ritualist, a member of a secret cult. The truth, when it emerged, was both simpler and more chilling. A search of Mama Clean's belongings revealed a stash of black nylon bags, each containing carefully wrapped sanitary pads. A student's mother, a nurse, confirmed they were used, raising questions no one wanted to answer. The school contacted the police, who traced Mama Clean's movements to Oshodi Market. Baba T, under pressure, admitted to buying the pads for ritualists, though he claimed ignorance of their final use. It's just business, he said, his voice devoid of remorse. Mama Clean, already now cornered, had no choice but to confess. She had been selling the pads for years, driven by poverty and the promise of easy money. She swore she meant no harm, but her words rang hollow. The school community reeled, their trust in her shattered. The girls, especially Blessing, felt a mix of triumph and guilt. They had exposed a monster, but at what cost? The scandal rocked St. Peter's Secondary School. Parents threatened to withdraw their children, and the school's reputation took a hit. The girls' hostel became a place of paranoia, with students double-checking bins and whispering about causes. Matron Grace, guilt-ridden for missing the signs, implemented strict disposal protocols, urging girls to wrap their pads securely and use designated bins. Blessing, Adesua, and Evelyn struggled with their new fame. Some students hailed them as heroes, others blamed them for the upheaval. Adesua, the most sensitive, had nightmares about Mama Clean's tearful face. Blessing, defiant, insisted they had done the right thing. Evelyn, ever practical, focused on spreading awareness, telling every girl she knew to be careful with their waste. Mama Clean disappeared from Ikea, her whereabouts unknown. Some said she had been arrested, others said she fled to her village, and some others even said she vanished into thin air just like that by the use of juju charms. Her absence left a void, a reminder of how easily trust could be exploited. The school hired a new janitor, a stern man who kept to himself, but the memory of Mama Clean lingered. As weeks turned to months, the girls reflected on their experience. They realized the world was more complex than they had imagined, a place where kindness could mask malice. Adesua, in a rare moment of boldness, spoke at a school assembly, urging her peers to protect themselves. We live in a wicked world, she said, her voice steady. Even small things, like how we throw away our used sanitary pads, matter. We ought to be very careful. Her words resonated. Girls began sharing tips. Wrap pads in multiple layers. Use opaque bags. Burn them if possible. The hostel adopted a new system, with locked bins emptied daily by trusted staff. The lesson was clear. In a city where desperation drove people to unthinkable acts, vigilance was survival. But the story wasn't without pain. Some girls, traumatized, left the hostel, their parents unwilling to risk another betrayal. The school struggled to regain trust, its once vibrant spirit dimmed, yet amid the darkness, there was hope. The girls' courage had sparked change, proving that even teenagers could challenge a broken system. New policies ensured safety, and the hostel buzzed with life once more. Mama Clean's story faded into legend, a cautionary tale told to new students. The moral lesson lingered. In a world where trust was fragile, every woman had to protect herself, starting with something as simple as a sanitary pad.